We begin today's wrestling news and rumors video with a bit of news regarding CM Punk and AEW All Elite Wrestling. Now, as most of you are well aware, CM Punk's debut in AEW last week on Rampage is still holding on as the biggest talking point in the wrestling community right now, and this was only amplified following last night's edition of AEW Dynamite, which saw CM Punk make his official debut on the show and once again make an appearance and deliver a great promo for fans. Before we get into the big news and rumors regarding CM Punk's status in AEW, we definitely have to mention that last night's Dynamite episode, which featured the official debut of CM Punk, garnered the third highest viewership in the show's history at 1.172 million viewers, and up over 20% from last week's Dynamite episode, and the second highest viewed AEW Dynamite episode of 2021 so far. While this is certainly a respectable number given the fact that it is the third highest viewed AEW Dynamite episode since the show was launched, when this news came out, a lot of fans were a bit disappointed with the numbers, as they thought CM Punk joining AEW would dramatically increase the ratings and viewership to WWE's level, and many felt like CM Punk would at least bring AEW Dynamite to the 1.5 to 1.6 million viewer range at the very least. Regardless, this is not a bad increase in viewership that CM Punk helped AEW attain last night on Dynamite, but certainly not the crazy increase that many were expecting. And not surprisingly, there is a huge debate right now amongst the wrestling community as to whether or not CM Punk's as big of a draw or attraction as lots felt he is or was, and that Punk may not actually be the big draw that AEW were hoping for. Some fans are even saying that we'll understand what a real draw is in wrestling tomorrow night when Brock Lesnar appears on Friday Night SmackDown, as those feel Brock's return to SmackDown will dramatically increase the viewership for the show to a level that CM Punk could never do in AEW. With that being said, it is probably a bit premature to be talking about the impact of CM Punk when it comes to AEW's ratings and viewership, as it will likely take some time for CM Punk's return to settle in and slowly push AEW to a bigger audience. It has been an incredibly long time since CM Punk has been in the world of wrestling, so the fans who stopped watching when Punk left the WWE may not just come back right away. With that being said, let us know your thoughts on the viewership last night's AEW Dynamite garnered featuring CM Punk's advertised debut on the show, and do you think that 1.172 million viewers was good for CM Punk's first appearance on the show, or are you a bit disappointed that the viewership was not higher? Anyways, we also do have some big new rumors regarding CM Punk's status in AEW and what plans the company have in place for CM Punk moving forward. Because while some speculate that CM Punk is mainly going to be utilized as a legend to help build up some newer wrestlers in AEW like Darby Allin for example, one of our sources has mentioned that All Elite Wrestling have plans for CM Punk to move up into the main event AEW World Title scene once his first storyline with Darby Allin finishes up. And the plan is for CM Punk to win the AEW World Championship before year's end, as AEW apparently have spent a lot of money to get CM Punk in the company, and they have every intention for CM Punk to be featured as a top attraction, at least for the foreseeable future, which definitely does make sense. As of right now, rumors point to CM Punk being the man to defeat Kenny Omega and win the AEW World Championship in the not so distant future. So by all means, All Elite Wrestling have plans for CM Punk to be a world title contender soon, and not just a legend to work with newer wrestlers, which is great news for CM Punk's fans. Now, as far as when CM Punk actually wins the AEW World title still remains to be seen, but one report indicates that a feud between Kenny Omega and CM Punk will likely begin around October 2021, so CM Punk could be the AEW World Champion around the mid to late fall of 2021 if all things go according to plan. Let us know your thoughts on AEW planning for CM Punk to win their World Championship in the near future, and do you find it surprising that All Elite Wrestling planned for CM Punk to be pushed as the face of the company at 42 years of age, or do you feel that CM Punk deserves a major push in AEW? However, a big name legend like Chris Jericho was also the AEW World Champion not too long ago, and at the time Jericho was in his late 40s, so CM Punk is definitely not too old to get a title reign. Now, while most fans are surely expecting to see Brock Lesnar set his sights on Roman Reigns and the Universal Championship following his return at SummerSlam 2021, which saw the Beast Incarnate make his shocking return following Roman's successful Universal title defense against John Cena, a breaking new behind-the-scenes rumor has indicated that this storyline may not start off so simple and quick, and could have a few major swerves before we get to that Brock Lesnar vs Roman Reigns Universal Championship match. Now, as we had reported in one of our last videos, WWE do eventually plan for Paul Heyman to turn on his current client Roman Reigns and go back to being the manager and advocate for Brock Lesnar only, but before that major turn on Roman Reigns, a new backstage report has leaked that WWE may be planning to form a temporary partnership or alliance between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, with Paul Heyman basically going to be trying to keep his two clients happy, and that if they work together they can dominate the WWE. And if this plan ends up happening, Brock Lesnar would not surprisingly turn on Roman Reigns very soon after joining forces with the head of the table, thus kicking off their feud together. But Vince McMahon feels even a temporary team consisting of Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns could be very intriguing, especially when Paul Heyman's put in the middle and having to choose sides with one of them eventually. And the storyline could start happening as early as tomorrow night's edition of SmackDown, which is apparently going to feature Brock Lesnar on the show. We now have a bit of news regarding Goldberg's status in WWE following his appearance at SummerSlam 2021, which saw Goldberg taste defeat once again, this time at the hands of Bobby Lashley, who managed to retain his WWE Championship. While some fans are always going to criticize Goldberg whenever he wrestles in WWE, especially as he continues to get older, one of our sources has mentioned that Vince McMahon was actually very impressed with Goldberg's performance against Bobby Lashley at SummerSlam, and Vince felt like Goldberg wrestled arguably the best match of his most recent WWE run that began all the way back in 2016. With McMahon feeling like Goldberg put in a lot more effort this time to make the match exciting, and did a lot more than just the usual spears and jackhammers, so by all means it is good news for Goldberg that he is on Vince's good side following SummerSlam. Now we have been told that WWE are planning for Goldberg to get a rematch against Bobby Lashley in the near future, which is not all too surprising considering Lashley made things personal with Goldberg at SummerSlam by going after his son. And one source mentioned that in all likelihood, the rematch between Bobby Lashley and Goldberg will occur at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view event in Saudi Arabia, which takes place in October of 2021, and there is a very good chance that Goldberg could be winning that WWE Championship this time around. Now for the fans who were beginning to get a bit skeptical about Daniel Bryan joining AEW All Elite Wrestling, especially when there were some new rumors recently stating that WWE were hopeful that Bryan would consider a return to the company, CM Punk basically confirmed Daniel Bryan's AEW signing last night on Dynamite during his promo, because at one point of CM Punk's promo, fans were chanting yes, and CM Punk responded by saying that's somebody else's shtick and you might have to be a little more patient. So by all means it does look like Daniel Bryan is officially signed to AEW and will be making his debut very soon.